ตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนัมมัสสามิ I'm very happy to be back with you. Today is Chinese New Year. It's also Valentine's Day. And we're also in Melbourne, we're in a lockdown again. It'll be very easy to remember this year's Chinese New Year, Valentine's Day and lockdown. It all happens together. Such is life. Things come together, often in an unpredictable fashion. So when we come together to talk about Dhamma and also to meditate together, this is a really useful time to come back to get to know yourself, check in with yourself. On Valentine's Day, we tend to think of Valentine's Day as a day of romance, romantic love, which is certainly a condition of mind that exists in the world, and people often chase after it and try and hold on to it. But the Buddha was encouraging us to develop, you might say, a deeper, more profound kind of love for oneself and for others, unconditional love. And we can only develop that by getting to know ourselves better, practicing more mindfulness and wise reflection, learning to reflect on our lives, on ourselves, to come in, bring our minds in line with the truth. Those of you who know a bit about the life of the Buddha probably know that incident where King Pasenadi of Kosala, he was talking to his main queen, Malika, and he, like a king you might imagine, is sometimes a bit vain, and so he just wanted to hear her say how much she loved him. So he asked her who she loved most of all in the world, and she answered, myself, which he wasn't too happy with. And this is a couple who are constantly bickering through their married life. So maybe that's familiar for many of you. And he wasn't happy with her answer that she loved herself most of all. So he wanted confirmation from the Buddha. So the question was sent to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, yeah, that's correct. The answer is correct. As human beings, we love ourselves the most. Meaning that's our basic default mode, isn't it? Our instinct is to follow our own desires and wishes, self-preservation, happiness. If you say you are with the person you think you love the most in the world, and you're standing next to a fire and you both put your hands out and start to get burnt, you pull your own hand back first before you might pull the other person's hand back. That's a normal reaction people have. Because we love ourselves the most. But having said that, we also can have the capacity, we have the capacity to love others in an unconditional way, to develop the Brahma Viharas, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha. We can do that as human beings because we have a mind that can be trained. Trained in the Dhamma, trained to transcend suffering and the attachments that we've accumulated since we've been born. We can do that. So how would you express love for another person? Well, maybe it might be the wish for them to understand the Dhamma. If you already have faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, you've experienced some peace and happiness from that practice, some understanding and wisdom. If you loved someone else or wanted to express your love, it might be the wish for that person to understand the Dhamma. It might be the wish for that person to meet the Buddha if the Buddha was alive, or if the Buddha is not alive, maybe to meet a disciple of the Buddha, the Sangha. You might wish them that, and then to hear the Dhamma so that they can learn what is truly beneficial for human beings. The Buddha gave the Dhamma, and he said the giving of Dhamma, the sharing of Dhamma, truth, is the best kind of sharing. It's the greatest gift we can give to each other. And so if you love someone, maybe that's what you would aspire for them, to come to the Dhamma and understand it. So if you're a parent, you love your kids, probably the greatest expression of that love would be to get them to hear the Buddha's teachings and understand them. Or if you do have a partner, say on Valentine's Day, nowadays we're very materialistic and consumer orientated, so we think, on Valentine's Day we should have some kind of a romantic meal by candlelight or do something together with our partner, which is fine, but it usually involves food and music and going to very nice places, different events, which for most people in Melbourne is now being cancelled because of lockdown anyway. But maybe take a moment to think, well, what do I really want for my partner? What would be really useful for them? Rather than just temporary pleasurable experiences, which are okay, but very fleeting and not a real source of lasting happiness. Maybe we would want them to understand the Dhamma, bring them to the Dhamma. If you really love somebody, what do you want from them? You want them to be totally free from suffering. Just as the Buddha or an Arahant has that kind of natural thought, because they're enlightened, they've lost all their selfish desires, their greed, anger and delusion. They say the mind of an enlightened person is just wishing the best for others with compassion, with kindness, without anger, without delusion, without attachment. We might aspire to that, as a gift on Valentine's Day or a gift on New Year, when we often come together as a family to meet our relatives. It's a time to think, what do I want for all these people? And you might answer, I'd like them to understand the Dhamma, practice the Dhamma, and really benefit from the Buddhist path. That's how I would think. That's how I do think. Every time people talk about, as a romantic love and marriage, I often will think of Venerable Mahakassapa from the time of the Buddha. And before he was a monk, before he was known as Mahakassapa, I think his name was Pipali. He was a layman from a good family, wealthy farming family. And his parents, they expressed their love for him by saying, we want you to take on the family business and find a really good wife. As most parents, they're like that. They didn't say, I want you to attain Nibbana and be free from suffering. Perhaps their vision was a little bit more limited, the normal way parents look upon their offspring. They want them to be materially, financially well off, have a good partner, raise some kids. That's the normal world vision we have, isn't it? But because Mahakassapa's previous karma was so strong, he really wanted to practice the Dhamma. He was wanting enlightenment. So the way he had to deal with his parents' expression of their love, wanting him to find a partner, was he thought he could outwit them and set them a task saying, well, I'll get married if you can find me a partner like this. And then he got some artists to make a wax model of the most beautiful woman he could think of, with all the right features, the right kind of hair and face, and the body in the right proportion. So it's like a statue of Miss Universe, you might say. He said, if you can find me a partner like this, then I'll marry, thinking they'll never find one. But his parents really loved him, and they really wanted him to marry. So they sent out all their messengers and servants all over the kingdom to try and find somebody who matched this statue, asking people, have you seen a girl like this, taking the statue around, till they did find one. But as karma has it, the girl they found had very similar character to Mahakassapa. Is a girl who had aspired to realize Dhamma. She wanted Nibbana just like Mahakassapa did. She didn't want to get married either. But to please her parents, as Mahakassapa was trying to please his parents, she agreed to meet, to get married. She wanted to get out of the situation, but she couldn't. So when they finally met and married, keeping the parents happy, once they were in private, they discussed their true feelings, and they both agreed they didn't really want a married life to bring up kids. They both wanted to practice for Nibbana. So the saying is, on their wedding night, they got the flowers from the wedding ceremony that had been used to decorate the place, and they laid them out on their bed as a kind of border between the two of them. So they both slept on the same bed but with flowers between them, and they agreed never to cross the flowers. So they kept celibacy from day one, both with the aim in the mind that they wanted to become enlightened and to not pursue the family life, have kids, and do the normal things that family people might do. So these are like the ideals. The ideal of a young couple who you might say should be romancing, dining and wining and dining, but they didn't. They set their hearts on Nibbana, finding a teacher and going forth. And they said, when we're ready, we'll leave the household life and go forth as a monk, as a nun, to practice. So these two people had true love for each other. How could that be? Well, they had helped each other in the practice for many, many lifetimes, and both of them already had some experience in meditation as lay people, and they already had some insights into past life recollections. Mahakassapa's wife, Bada, she actually later she became a nun, and she was praised for her ability to recollect past lives. But both of them recollected their past lives. They didn't recollect, all the happiness and the successes and the good things of family life. They were recollecting how much suffering they've been through, life after life, all the obstacles they've encountered, all the times they got sick, all the difficulties of living in the world, getting old, getting sick, dying, the pain of separation. That's what they got from their recollection of past lives, how much suffering human life can have, which only made them want to practice more. But they could also remember they'd support each other over and over again in the practice. And this is why they came together in this life as Mahakassapa and his wife Bada. They both had the same aspiration for Nibbana. So when the time was right, they settled their affairs, left people in charge of the farm that was their inheritance, and they headed off, shaved their heads. They shaved each other's head. That's true love, husband for a wife, wife for a husband. Can you shave your partner's head and send them off to the monastery? That's what they did. So they set off, and they realized they can't go together as husband and wife. So they separated and went to different monasteries. Mahakassapa went and found the Buddha and went to live at Jetavana, and Bada, his wife, became a nun nearby to the Jetavana and later became a bhikkhuni, and they both became enlightened. So they achieved what they wanted for each other. So you might say that's true love, wishing somebody else the chance to hear the Dhamma, practice the Eightfold Path, and achieve enlightenment. So maybe today's a good day to ask yourself, do I wish that for my partner, or do I wish them just to be close to me and make me feel happy all the time and do what I want, say what I want? How pure is our love for our partner? Or your family, your relatives, you all come together for Chinese New Year. What do you want for your relatives? Do you want them just to be rich and successful? Which of course is a reasonable aspiration as well. We don't want our family members to suffer, our uncles, aunties, parents, cousins, nephews, nieces. We want them all to be successful. But is that all we want? Or do we want the highest happiness for them? What is the highest happiness? Well, a peaceful mind. Natti santi paramang sukhang. A peaceful mind is the highest happiness in the Buddhist teachings. If you really wish that for your family members, then you probably wish them to pursue the Eightfold Noble Path, to practice dana, practice sila, practice developing samadhi, and to develop wisdom and insight into the Four Noble Truths. So maybe on Chinese New Year, when we meet each other, we should all say to each other, I wish you a lot of Four Noble Truths. I hope that you really penetrate and understand the Four Noble Truths for Chinese New Year. Or even on Valentine's Day, you take your partner out for that candlelit dinner. I wish you really understand the Four Noble Truths. Is that in our thinking? The reality is we tend to be more simple than that. We just want our partner to make us happy. We want to see things more in material terms and good feelings, pleasant experiences. And the Buddha didn't deny any of that. It's not he said you can't have pleasure and enjoy the company of your spouse, your partner. But he just pointed out there's a higher happiness waiting for us, and we have to work up to that. We have to aspire to that and work towards it through our practice. So on this occasion, it's a good time to really think about your life. What is your goal in life? Is it the highest happiness of a peaceful mind, following the Buddha's path of dana, sila, bhavana? Or are you aiming a bit lower? Just trying to get by. I mean, fair enough, sometimes in life when we are struggling, our goal is more just pay the bills, get by this week, make sure we've got enough money to pay the bills, look after the family or look after ourselves. But we can still aspire to more than that. So on these occasions, we can go back to think, what is our goal in life? What am I doing here? Why was I born? Mahakassapa and his wife, they had an advantage. They could recollect past lives. So they had no doubt about the impermanent nature of a human life. We're born, we get older, we get sick, we die. We go through experiences of pleasure and pain, but ultimately we have to separate from each other. The ones we love, we have to separate from. Is there any happiness outside or higher than that? So they had no doubt in their this was their final life. They went off to the monastery. They had no doubts about that. They never looked back with regret, say, oh, I wish we'd stayed together and run the farm and had some kids and had some good times. They knew that was a very limited kind of happiness, so they didn't have any doubts left. Off they went. So very quickly they both became enlightened, because they could put all their effort and energy into the practice. Maybe for us, we're not there yet. We have to accept we haven't accumulated enough good karma, enough skillful means, enough wisdom and mindfulness yet to see it in the same way as Mahakassapa and Bada, his wife. But you may have had an inkling, an intuition that there is this higher happiness. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this probably. We listen to the Dhamma hoping to get more understanding of how to practice, bring our minds closer to the Dhamma. So we have to practice from where we're at in our life at this time. Most of us still have other duties towards our family. We have jobs, or if you haven't got a job, maybe you're out of work. Unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their jobs at this time. Well, your duty maybe is trying to find new work to get a regular income. But try not to lose track of the Eightfold Noble Path as you do that. And we get so much of this peaceful mind, happy mind through the practice, and it doesn't have to contradict or clash with our normal daily life. As we go to work, if you have a job, we'll try to practice dana as you do that. Develop the quality of generosity. Share your time, share your knowledge, share what you have with the people around you. And it helps us to be happier as we go through our life, doesn't it? The practice of generosity brings us happiness over and over again, and brings us happy memories. Try to practice sila as you go to work, as you live with the people that you live with. Bring the sila, the practice of virtue, into your life as a regular guideline for how you're going to interact with the people around you, practicing mindfulness with your actions, your speech, to keep it within the bounds of the 5 precepts. These are the practice of dana and seeing. Sila is laying the foundation for a peaceful mind. It won't take away the difficulties and challenges of life, but it's giving you the right kind of nourishment, mental nourishment, for developing the path that will help you to move your mind to a higher place, experience a higher happiness. Because it keeps you free from regret. When you practice dana, it automatically is reducing some of your attachment, some of your greed, selfishness. And that makes us happier because it frees our mind from those more coarser mental defilements. When you practice sila, it frees your mind up from regret about what we've said and done. If you've managed to keep the 5 precepts today, and I imagine many of you have, just reflect back on your day. You don't have any regrets, you don't have any heavy feelings based on your actions and speech today. So when you come to practice meditation, it's easier. If you've kept the 5 precepts today and you come to sit meditation, you may still have all kinds of attachments and stuff coming up in your mind, sleepiness, doubts, worries, but you won't have any heavy feelings based on what you've said and done today if you've been keeping the 5 precepts. If you've lost it today and you did fall into an argument with someone or do something unskillful, we have to accept that. Just re-establish that determination, the intention to keep the precepts from here on. Sometimes we do lose our awareness and do more or say more unskillful things, but we can learn from that. Re-establish the good intention to follow the precepts and start again. Just as we start again when we come to practice meditation, we re-establish mindfulness on the breath, for example. We may have lost our mindfulness for many minutes or hours through the day and completely forgotten about the Dhamma and training ourselves, but you always have the opportunity to start again, start afresh, especially on a day like New Year's Day. It's a day to renew your effort in the practice. So every time you come to practice meditation, it's like that. It's a chance to renew your effort in developing mindfulness and experiencing the peaceful mind. Ajahn Chah used to point out, the peaceful mind isn't really necessarily a mind that's empty of thinking and thoughts and moods and so on, but it's a mind that is at peace with itself. whatever is going on. It's a good point to remember when you come to meditate. You have to accept, as you sit down to meditate, or if you're doing walking meditation, the same. Whatever's coming up in your mind is coming up. That's just the fruits of your karma and where you're at in your day, in your life. The good is good, the bad is bad, but it's coming up because of causes and conditions. But how are you going to address that? How are you going to deal with that? That's how you practice meditation. You're learning to be aware and then be at peace with whatever is coming up, rather than creating fresh suffering by getting annoyed with yourself and having a mind that's full of thoughts, judging yourself, blaming yourself, or blaming others, judging others, and getting upset by other people. The beginning point of meditation is just accepting how you feel physically, how you are mentally, and establishing awareness of that. So even if you're very agitated over something, you can find peace within that by just knowing, oh, now I'm agitated. Maybe you're worried about lockdown, how it's affected you, changing schedules, changing work, changing study, all kinds of things are cancelled, all kinds of things are inconvenient. Maybe that pops up because you've suddenly had to rearrange your times and what activities you're doing. That's normal, but try to be at peace with that, in the sense just accept that's the normal way your mind might be thinking today in the middle of a lockdown. Or maybe it's Chinese New Year, you've come together with some of your relatives and they bring their own karma with them, and some you get on well with, some you don't get on very well with, some you're more neutral towards. And you meet and people say things, and some people say things and make you very happy. Some people say things and get you irritated. So when you come to meditate, just accept that. Your mind is like a New Year's Eve, a New Year's Day gathering. Instead of all those different people on the outside, when you sit to meditate, you've got all the different people on the inside. You've got the happy self, the angry self, the worried self, the bored self. All these different aspects of your character and your karma may come up at different times, one after another, poking their head in. And it can be confusing. When we're not mindful, every mood, every sense impression drags our mind away, just like a bunch of different people at a New Year's party. And one person says this, another says that, and your mind's all over the place, and you keep reacting and feel up, feel down. Your own mind is like that when you come to look at it in meditation. Different memories, different moods come up, and they won't all be to your liking. But see if you can just establish awareness, mindfulness in the present moment, and accept whatever is coming up is coming up. Just as like when you're sitting at a table with a dozen relatives, and there's the ones you like, the ones you don't like, the ones you feel neutral towards. That's just the way it is. You don't have to react to the ones you like, the ones you don't like. You just know, oh, there are these different people with their different characters. Some I get on well with, some I don't. Many of them I just feel quite normal with. Your mind is the same. As you establish mindfulness and meditate on following the breath, all the different family members of your mind come up. What you think about this, what you think about that, how you feel pleasure, you feel pain, you feel alert, you feel sleepy. In the same way, you just get to know your own mind and be at peace with it, whether it's disturbed or quiet, thinking a lot, thinking a little. Just know it as it is. You might say this is the starting point of the practice of mindfulness. It's just knowing what's there, being aware and seeing. This is seeing with the Dhamma eye, the internal eye. Other people won't be able to see what's going on in your mind. Only you can do that. And if you really want to help yourself to improve along this path, and at the same time help other people as well, then you have to open this inner eye more to see what's going on, so you can be more at peace with yourself. So don't get too caught up in blaming yourself if you're not particularly peaceful or you've got a lot of negative thoughts coming into your consciousness as you meditate. Try to establish mindfulness and just watch, just know. It's like this. They arise, they pass away. As you're practicing meditation, different sensations come up, pass away. You don't have to run after them all or get caught up in them. Just watch. It's like that teaching of a guy who wanted to catch a lizard that was living inside the termite mound. Like in our forest here, we have termite mounds all over the place, white ants, termites. So I'm always reminded of this teaching. And the lizard's inside, and there's 6 holes, doorways into the termite mound. So how does he catch the lizard? Well, he blocks up 5 of them. And he's just got 1 to watch. So if the lizard pokes its head out, he can grab the lizard. Ajahn Chah used to say meditation is like that. We have our 6 senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch, and the mind itself. So normally all 6 are active and bringing us all kinds of information and sense impressions, and we get caught out by all of them and it stirs us up. We have pleasant objects and experiences, we have unpleasant objects and experiences, and this is why we often feel very worn out and confused by our own mental activity, reacting to everything. But now we're meditating, we can just close up all the 5 external senses and just put our attention on the mind. As we watch the breath, our mind is with the breath. And that's our aim, just to put the attention of the breath in one place, the mind in one place with the breath. Know the mind, know the breath. When we see something or hear something, well, it will take our attention away if the mindfulness is weak and we get caught up into what we hear, what we see, what we think. But our aim is to bring the mind back to the present moment and just to know the mind in one place. So we anchor it with the breath. Even though different things will come up, we don't run after them or get caught up into them. We don't allow the mind to do that. We just watch them and let them go. Watch them and let them go. Just like here on a hot day in the forest, in the mountains, you get flies coming. You don't have to chase after them or kill them or do anything to them. You just see them and then let them go. They come bother you for a few moments and then you let them go. All our different sense impressions can be like that. When mindfulness is trained, and that's our aim, is to train the mindfulness and the clarity, clear comprehension, we can see all these different mental impressions arising, passing away. We just let them go. And little by little we're learning to be at peace with ourselves, with our own body, our own mind, our own karma. And that's where we find real happiness. The more we learn to look after our mind with mindfulness, the happier we'll be. We'll be at peace even with unpleasant memories or worry and anxiety about the future. It's quite normal to have fears and worries about what will happen next because of lockdown, coronavirus, work-related things, the economy, travel, health, all the things we like to worry about. Of course, those will come up. But you're changing your attitude as you meditate. You're seeing these mental states, thoughts, moods, as just mental states, just thoughts. And learning to be at peace with them. Peacefully observe them arising, you know it, and then you let it go. And from this practice we gain both calm and insight. They come together as we're training the mind to watch over itself, developing the right qualities of mindfulness, clear comprehension, and then insight, wise reflection and wisdom. You're looking after your mind so it becomes more at peace with itself, more under your control. You're able to guard over it. And it's one of the the benefits of practicing mindfulness, it has this quality of being like a guardian, so that you don't let the mind dwell on stressful thoughts, thoughts that bring you more suffering. You don't let your mind dwell on negative intentions that might lead you to act or speak in harmful ways. You're maximizing your unconditional love for yourself when you practice like this, because you're looking after your mind in the best possible way, preventing it from harm. Because the more you practice, the more wisdom you get. You see, when you give in to negative thinking or follow negative intentions that come out in your speech, your actions, lead you to say or do things, you're harming yourself. You're not loving yourself at that moment, you're harming yourself, because you're grasping at greed, anger and delusion, the mental defilements. And these will always lead on to harming others as well. It's so difficult to live in this world without harming others. The only way we can do it is by looking after this mind, practicing more awareness and letting go of mental defilement. Not an easy task. So the highest happiness we aspire to, Nibbana, it's not something that you can just achieve casually. It's not something you can fake it. You can fake it until you make it. It doesn't work like this. We have to be sincere, honest in our efforts to look after the mind, guard over it, protect it. But the benefits are profound. The more we do that job, the more we practice looking after the mind, the happier we become, and the more it will benefit the people around us. I was saying earlier, what is the greatest gift? The greatest gift is Dhamma. So if you want to practice love, kindness, compassion for the people around you on this occasion, New Year or Valentine's Day, the greatest gift is giving the Dhamma or bringing them to the Dhamma. We also have the gift, the material gift of just supporting each other, and then also the gift of fearlessness, abhayadana. When we are looking after our mind, we're restraining the worst intentions of anger, greed, selfishness. They may arise in our thinking, but if we have enough mindfulness, we can restrain them to stop them coming out in our actions and our speech. That's the gift of fearlessness. People can be with you, but they know you're looking after your mind, so you're not giving in to your anger and your greed, or doing things, saying things that are going to harm them, because you're giving them the gift of fearlessness based on your practice. In a more modern metaphor might be, your mindfulness is like the brake on your car. It stops you crashing. How do we harm ourselves, harm others? Or we forget to use the brake, we forget to apply the brake, so we say and do things which hurt others. Or sometimes it's just thinking thoughts, negative thoughts that keep coming back to us over and over again, and we don't apply the brake, so we keep holding on to those ways of thinking and hurting ourselves, making ourselves more anxious, more stressed, more angry, more fearful. So maybe we can wish each other to have more mindfulness this new year, so that our mental brake is working at its best for the whole year. May you have good working brakes, mental brakes, for the rest of the year, so you don't harm yourself, you don't harm others. You can restrain the mental defilements when you see them and stop them causing you trouble and others, and then let them go. If your brake is working well, it keeps you out of suffering and also helps you to, little by little, purify your mind and get towards that higher happiness that we're aiming for. So for tonight, I'll just say this much and wish you all New Year's blessings, good health, happiness and success in your practice, and may you all achieve the highest happiness of Nibbana.